the idea of Amonkhet block had always been, it was part Egypt, part Bolas. So the idea for Amonkhet was, it was like mostly Egypt with a little bit of Bolas. Well, Hour of Devastation is a little bit of Egypt with a lot of Bolas.
One of the jokes that has happened a lot with Nicol Bolas is he's this big bad who doesn't do anything. Like, we've seen him behind the scenes a lot, we've seen him making plans, we haven't really seen him do anything. For a lot of people, that they wonder, like, well, what is the big deal with Nicol Bolas? Like, is he really that tough? And as the Gatewatch finds out very quickly, he's not a pushover like the Eldrazi were.
Nicol Bolas, God Pharaoh, all along is one of the most important cards in the set, a card that we spent a lot of time talking about and iterating on. We knew we wanted him to be extremely powerful, very exciting to read at first glance. We decided early on that he would have 4 abilities, kind of representing just the magnitude of his power and giving him extra versatility in constructed. And because we knew we wanted the card to be very powerful and very splashy, it made a lot of sense to position it as a high mana cost card that might go in a controlling deck, maybe something you'd use to finish up the game.
Nicol Bolas. He's like the perfect mix of a flavorful card and a powerful card. So when you cast this guy, you really want to start taking over the game immediately. The first ability exiles cards from the opponent's deck until you find a non-land card and you just cast it. So it could be a removal spell on your opponent's guy, or their planeswalker, or their creature, but either way, this ability is going to help you win the game. The second ability is a way to help you stabilize, so maybe your opponent only has 2 or 3 cards in their hand. Well, you have to make sure that those cards don't kill Nicol Bolas, so you want to use this ability to get their last cards out of their hand to just guarantee that when you untap with this planeswalker, you have a huge advantage.
Made a card that was basically, this is the thing you want to do if you're playing a control deck and you just want a huge planeswalker to kind of end the game. You know, it does a wide variety of things. It provides a ton of card advantage with both of its plus abilities. Kills off creatures and players with the -4, like 7 damage is a lot. Like, just doing that twice is kind of like an ultimate, but yet it has another ultimate for when the board is really bogged down. You just blow up everything you don't control. And that should win the game.
One of the mistakes I made long ago is I was working on a set called Dark Ascension. And Dark Ascension was all about the bad guy, the humans were on the brink of extinction. And when I first started designing it, I took it from the point of view of the humans. I'm like, oh no, things are horrible. And then finally I realized that I'd made a mistake. That the fun part of that set was not being the humans that were on the brink of death, it was being the monsters that were being victorious. And I think we embrace the same thing here, which is, like, this is a set all about destruction. But rather than be on the side of the people being destroyed, let's take it to the other side. Let's be on Bolas' side. Let's, you get to bring the destruction. And so one of the fun things about the set is it's very destructive, but you, the player, get to bring the destruction. That you get a little sense of Bolas. This is a chance for you to get a taste of what it's like to be Bolas and just recklessly destroy things, or carefully destroy things, I guess, in his case.
The cycle that I fought for was the defeats. That it is this story about Bolas triumphing, and I really wanted you as the player to get to experience what it's like to be Bolas. And if you've ever, wanted to sort of smush Jace's face into the sand, well, you get this moment where you get to do that with a card. And so they were something that people kept raising their eyebrows at a little bit, and I was like, no, this is going to be really cool. You're going to have this answer to Jace that shows Jace getting knocked down, and the same for Gideon and for Chandra and for Liliana. And I really thought that was this cool moment.
The defeat cycle came from early design. It's quite flavorful, really kind of like the story that these cards tell. We wanted to show Nicol Bolas just kind of utterly ruining the Gatewatch in kind of heads-up combat, which is something that hadn't really come up in the story before. So we talked a lot about kind of how to position these cards. We talked about maybe they could be kind of utility cards or removal spells that had upgrades against the Planeswalkers, but we wanted to kind of mitigate the factor where, if we gave you just a strong removal spell that was super effective against, Liliana, for example, well, we have Liliana cards in the environment that we actually want you to play with to some degree as well. So we didn't want to go overboard on hating on the Planeswalkers, because we wanted a good, healthy environment where you're not overly punished for playing with a card that we're telling you is awesome. So these defeat cards kind of evolved over time into how can we make these into sideboard cards that are particularly effective against the Planeswalkers, but also have some utility even if your opponent isn't playing with the Planeswalker or happen not to draw it in that game. So we looked back at the Theros self-color hate cycle, Glare of Heresy being an example of one of those cards. And we kind of patterned these cards off of those such that they're strong enough to play to sideboard in many cases against a deck of that color, and if that deck is also playing that Planeswalker in some number of copies, sometimes you'll get a little extra bonus as well and kind of get the achievement unlocked feeling of, you know, killing Jace with Jace's defeat or whatever else the case may be.
The defeats have really fun quests to put yourself on. There's something that, you know, you get a lot of satisfaction of. It's not just that you exiled your opponent's attacking creature, but you got their Gideon. And let's face it, we're all ready to exile Gideon at this point.
We had the Oath cycle. We've seen that. We started in Oath of the Gatewatch, and it has continued, you know, since then. And we wanted to do a parallel that shows, like, okay, we had everyone buys into the idea of the Gatewatch, and then we want to show what happens when they're totally outmatched. Absolutely outmatched, without question. And Bolas is a character that even the collective force of the Gatewatch, he's too much for them. And so this defeat cycle really shows that they're in over their heads. They're going to need some more help.
We knew that Bolas was going to defeat the Gatewatch. That was important. Like, this is really a comeuppance for the Gatewatch. You know, this is their pride being pushed too far. This is them not realizing the scope of what they're up against. But we wanted to go a step farther than that. Bolas didn't want to just defeat them. He wanted to utterly defeat them. He wanted to go to each one on a personal level and defeat them in a way personally that just thumbs his, you know, that just says, I am beating you. Like, I understand who you are as a person, and I'm particularly beating you in a way that's going to hurt you the most. And so what the cycle is he goes to each one of them and he finds a way not just to beat them, because he's cruel, to beat them in a way that will forever, you know, like, to beat them in a way that they'll never ever forget. You know, and that he is vicious, he is mean, and this cycle shows not just them losing, but them losing in the utterly worst possible way.
My favorite part about Hour of Devastation is you get to see Bolas at his full power. It's not when he sends one of his lackeys to do something. This is him. He has created a world for the sole purpose of making this, you know, destruction, and he has come in and he has done it, and he's an active participant, and he just decimates the Gatewatch, and it's just so great to watch him really getting in there, getting his hands dirty, and showing you what an Elder Dragon Planeswalker is really all about.
For me, the big takeaway particularly from Hour of Devastation, is that Bolas wins. Bolas gets the moment. You know, if you are a fan of the villain, revel in that.
One of the things we wanted is we really wanted to end this block. Like, sometimes you end a story in which it's closed. Like, we're done. We're finished. Okay? The story is over. And sometimes you want to end in a just exciting, flashy way that people don't expect, and you go, wait, what's going to happen next? And so the idea is the Gatewatch comes here. Look, we've seen them deal with the Eldrazi. They dealt with Tezzeret. Look, they're coming. They're going to deal with Bolas. And what we want to have happen is show you Bolas is truly scary and make you go, oh my, what's going to happen next? The Gatewatch are just utterly defeated. Why, what, you know, and so this, we really wanted to end on a note that said, hey, you know what, come back. There's more story to tell.